50 states, we can experiment. And we can have, you would expect, different states to embody and to defend different values and mores. But through the tool of interstate compact, there is a mechanism to go directly after federal law and to move the decision-making back to the states, closer to the people. In my opinion, that is a very potent tool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mario, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for the invitation to join you this morning. I don't think in my lifetime, certainly not in the 30-some years I've been in Washington, I've ever seen anything like this. You have never seen, and you probably never will again, hopefully, Congress pass a law that affects all 300 million Americans. In a legislative package of 2,400 pages, in 10 titles, translated into 907 pages of very turgid statutory prose, with an implementation schedule over a period of 8 years, which will affect 1/6 now, very shortly, 1/5 of the entire American economy. In the teeth of popular opposition. You have never seen this before. Never have you seen this before. Never have you seen such a display of arrogance. Never. Never have you seen anything like this before. If this law stands, it will forever transform the United States from a society that is governed by individualistic impulses, a society in which political authority is looked at askance by virtue of the very political culture that we inherited in 1776, to a society where power is centralized, where normal, everyday decisions, political decisions governing your life, are made by people you do not know, will never know, who are not accountable to you, and in fact are not even accountable to the Congress, a large administrative state, which is bent on the redistribution of wealth. So, the facts of the matter are pretty clear. That's what's facing us. Congress has made its decision. Now it's your job to make yours. There is one fundamental fact, however, that changes the equation between the United States and every other country on the face of the earth. It's becoming exciting to me, listening to Ted Cruz, that more and more Americans are going to congressional town hall meetings and asking members of Congress when they are going to live up to the oath that they have taken before God to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, to support the Constitution of the United States. You've seen these town hall meetings. They're governed by emotion. They're governed by emotion because most of your fellow citizens realize that there is something profoundly wrong afoot in a country which has increased its federal deficit by $3 trillion in just 2 years. However, we're the heirs of something that is fantastic. There's so much that has been written on it and so much that has been forgotten, but so much we have to be reminded of. In 1787, the founding fathers of the American Republic pulled off the greatest single practical achievement in the history of modern political science. That's a fact. It was a fact recognized at that time by our enemies, the British leadership. John Adams and Abigail Adams had regular correspondence. John Adams was minister to London. Other Americans were traveling to London at the time and pointed out that members of the British Parliament would pump their hands in congratulations at the achievement that they were seeing coming out of America on this incredible deliberation, never before in the history of the world, where the political leadership of a country decided to fashion a constitution and submit it to popular debate and disposition. That has never happened before. It happened once in 1787. And we created, as George Washington said, we have changed the world by that very fact. Now, what did they decide to do? This is where you come in, you personally. What they decided to do was divide power between a general government handling general concerns and particular governments handling particular concerns. They recognized the profound unity of the United States, born in war and revolution, and the profound diversity of the American people at that time. The question was, how could you create a republic in a large territory? It was a revolution in political science because most of the visionaries at that time thought that that was an impossible idea. Catherine the Great thought it was a silly experiment. And from the standpoint of Catherine the Great of Russia, governing a large territory, the idea of a vast republic did seem kind of bizarre. Who were these Americans? But the division of authority, the creation of the federal system, where the states are supreme in their own sphere. There is no vertical relationship between Washington and the states. That's not Madison's Constitution. It is a horizontal relationship where the federal government is, as Hamilton says, a champion of national power, where the government is supreme in its own sphere. And its powers, as Madison said, are defined and numbered. And your power, the power that you exercise as a state legislature, is undefined and innumerable. That is the language of Madison. Now, what does that mean here now? It means that if you have an unconstitutional act imposed by Washington, and you have taken an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution, if you take the oath seriously, you do in court, you know. If you take it seriously, you don't have too much choice in this matter, do you? You cannot vote 1 red cent to implement an unconstitutional law without violating your oath. If you firmly believe, and you, by the way, don't have to wait for the courts to make that determination. Every police officer who raises his hand to defend the Constitution is required to make decisions about whether his acts are within the Constitution or not. Your responsibilities, frankly, you have more time for deliberation than a cop on a beat who has to make a split-second decision within the framework of the law and the Constitution about whether to take somebody's life or just do search and seizure operations. You actually have more time to think about it. But the truth of the matter is, you have to think about it. So no, you don't have a right to violate your oath. If the individual mandate's unconstitutional, you got to go to court. 21 states are going to court. 13 states have gone to court and said that the Medicaid expansion is unconstitutional. It's a commandeering of the state authority. 20 states have told Washington to go jump with regard to its temporary high-risk rules because they are, in effect, an unfunded mandate on the states. The founders had it very, very clear. Now, you've heard this morning, and I think Ted talked about a very interesting idea, which is the Interstate Compact. All I want to say about this is I think it's a cool idea. You know, it's kind of like a double reverse.